What's up, everyone? Welcome to this discussion. Today, we're going to be talking about the upcoming fall split land competitions that's going to be happening in Atlanta, Georgia. So, if you weren't aware of what the setup was, if you haven't seen any announcements or last week's patch notes, they announced that there's going to be 4 weeks of lands, and there's going to be four groups, and each week is going to be a different group competing amongst each other for seeding coming up to the super regionals. And I'm not positive, but I think it might be the top two teams of each group are going to go to super regionals, and then I think the top teams from that, maybe like the top three teams will go, or four will go to the Smite World Championships, and then they will compete, of course, against Latin America and the Oceania and all these other teams from around the world. Um, but coming up the next week, which is going to be not this weekend, but next weekend, starting October 7th, we're going to see the first group, and it's actually going to be EU. So we can start looking at what the different teams are. So in Group 1, we have Orbit, which is previously Paradigm. They were just endorsed or sponsored by Orbit. That's kind of like a controversial thing because Orbit used to be in Smite, and they were kicked out for doing some shady stuff. I don't really remember exactly what it was, but I know Orbit Game is kind of like this controversial company. Fantastique, who is a new team, they came out of relegations earlier in the year, so they're a new team. We got Dignitas, which is a very um, tenured team, a lot of players that have been in the SPL for a while. We have Sanguine Gaming. They are also new, but there's a lot of players on that team who have been in the SPL before. Um, and that is it. That's the four teams in Group 1. So I'm going to go through this first group for the week coming up. It's technically week 5 of the fall split. I'm going to go through each game, give you my predictions. I'm going to also vote at the same time while I do it. I'm going to talk about where the teams are at in the split, how I think the players are doing, if maybe some upsets that if you're starting to pick for this week, what upsets you might want to choose. And just to give you a little bit of background, I do watch quite a bit of SPL. I've been starting to do work on Reddit, trying to work with the mods for the Reddit page, coming up with graphics to send out scores after games have happened. So that means that I'm watching almost every match now. So I've been trying to get a good grip of how teams are doing. So we're gonna go over. I'm gonna make this probably a 4-part series. Do one for each week. We'll see. I might group them up later, but we're gonna start off with the first week. Um, as I think I already said, I think this group is probably gonna be the worst group of the four. There really doesn't seem to be much of a competition here. I think Orbit Gaming, OrbitGG, whatever, they're probably going to be the winner of this group. Of course, anything can happen, but of all of the four groups, I think this is the one that I'm least excited about, and also the one that I think might be completely one-sided if I were to choose. The second EU group is great. I'm very, very excited for that one. That one I think is going to be full of upsets and surprises, and it's going to be interesting. But this first group I think is going to be pretty much one-sided, so we'll go through each game as I said. So looking at Orbit, you can see their icon is still Paradigm. Fantastique, again, is a new team. A lot of new interesting players. Of course, everyone knows Nilissa, who is the first female Smite player. She's actually really good. She's grown a lot throughout the split too. I've noticed she's been getting a lot better. And I think the team in general has been improving. The last couple weeks that they played in the fall split, they've just been I mean, they dominated Sanguine. They split with some really good teams as well. Um, so while this one could go a split potentially, I think there's no reason to not go 2-0 on Orbit. The way Paradigm, I mean, I still kind of want to call them Paradigm. The way they've been playing throughout the split has been great. Of course, they've gone through a lot with Paradigm, the sponsor, being doing some very sketchy things. So they were bipolar method for like a week or two, and then they were just recently picked up by Orbit, as I said. So they might be going through a little bit of um, a period of change right now. So maybe when they get to the land, they might be not running at full cylinders, but at the same time, this team has been together. They have not changed their roster in a very long time, and I think they're probably the most tenured team in all of Smite. They've been together for a very long time. They all know each other. They know their playstyles. They have their techniques down to a science. They know exactly what their strengths and weaknesses are. Lobster is a very solid mid laner. You have Cuvo Fred in the jungle. Zayla never really loses lane in the solo lane. And then of course, you have the great combo in the duo of Funballer and Trix Tank, which I think is probably the best dual lane combo in EU right now. You could argue Iraffer and Emily too, but Iraffer on energy has actually been playing very, very badly recently. So I think Trix Tank and Funballer are just an amazing combo. Trix Tank, Bacchus, and Guan Yu are his two great gods, and then again Funballer. He can play a very good Soul. He can play a very good Rama. Um, I'm really excited to see that dual lane in this upcoming land. So I think that they are probably going to 2-0 Fantastique, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were close games. So watch out for that. That's game one. Next is going to be Dignitas versus Fantastique. Now, Dignitas, they're one of those teams that every year, and I've only been watching the SPL for about a year and a half now. Every time that a split starts or something happens, I feel like they're going to be good. I feel like, Suntouch is going to finally have a season where he just kind of takes over. I feel like um, I feel like they're a team that should be doing well. I think Big Man Tings is a great support as well. He's very strong, and they're another team that again has a lot of synergy. They have known each other for a long time. I think a lot of them are really good friends. So they're a team that in theory should be doing pretty well, but they can have games where they just completely feed. Suntouch, for instance, does like to feed quite a bit. Um, and then Fantastique, they're the new team. This is going to be their second match in a row. I actually wouldn't be surprised if they split this match. I think one game per team makes sense. I think, again, Fantastique is on the rise, but this is going to be their first LAN. And if you have watched any professional esports, or especially if you've watched professional Smite, you know that a team that does well on a week-to-week basis may not do well in the LAN. I think Orbit, again, has a huge advantage because they've been through many LANs together. They've won many LANs. Again, they were the first seed in the Smite World Championships last year, so they know how to play at LANs for sure. You can also bet that Dignitas is going to know how to play at LANs as well because they've all been through it. These are players who have been in the Smite scene for a long time, so they're going to be knowing what they're doing. Fantastique is new. Again, we'll see. You could easily vote 2-0 Dig on that one if you have some doubts about Fantastique's ability to play to LAN, but I think a split is fair, to be honest. All right, next is Orbit Sanguine. This one is no question. You have to vote Orbit on that one. Sanguine just does not have good synergy. Murder, who was previously Conde Life, is a support on that team, and he has not been playing well whatsoever. To be honest with you, I can't really um, remember every player on that team, even because they're probably one of the teams that I'm never really paying attention to if I am watching. Um, so they're really one of those teams that they came out of relegations, they won, and of course you expect players like Conde Life to or now Murder, you expect him to do well. Since he's been in the SPL for a while, but he's one of those players that has just not found his groove in a long time. And there's really not much more to say about it. They're just they're not doing very well. Definitely the worst team in the EU League right now. Next up, Dig versus Sanguine. I think this is another one. It doesn't really need to be discussed too much. I mean, you could maybe look for the split there, but there's really no reason to do that. Just be safe, pick Dignitas. Even though Dignitas has not been performing at their ultimate performance at all, they're still gonna come out. They have that LAN experience. They know each other well. They know their play styles. I think they're gonna come out and 2-0 them in that game. Um, Next is Fantastique versus Sanguine. Again, last match that I watched, which was these two teams playing together, Fantastique just completely dominated Sanguine. So I really think it's gonna be the same thing. I think so I mean we can look at it now. Which two teams would we want to pick to come out of this group? And that's assuming again that it's two teams. It might just be one team. um, per per group, but I think it's two. I think like the best two teams come out of it and they go to super regionals. I'm pretty sure. So right now, the three teams that you're really going to look at are Orbit, Fantastique, and Dignitas. I think Dignitas and Fantastique are the two teams that can be battling out. There, it might be really close to see who wins out. Um, but I do think Fantastique will win this game 2-0. And then again, we have Dignitas versus Fantastique again. Now, the last one I did a split. So, there's really no real reason because it's the same two teams to pick something different. Um, but I do like to switch things up. So what I'm gonna do on this one is I do think since Dignitas has that land experience, I think maybe they'll come out. I could be wrong. Maybe I should do a split on both games, but I think that's a little not. I don't think that's very interesting. I think Dig again is one of those teams that could show up on the day. So Frostiak in the jungle, and then you have uh, I think Shadow Nightmare is the mid laner on that. So I think those are all players that who are have experience again in Smite Lands, and I do think that they are going to perform. So the next game is going to be Orbit versus Dignitas. So in this scenario, Dignitas will have just come off of a win from Fantastique. So they're probably going to be looking to show up towards Orbit. They're probably going to be feeling good. Um, but I'm not sure if anyone's going to take a game off of Orbit. And the thing is, if someone does, it's almost impossible to choose who it would be. If I would have to choose anyone, it would be Dignitas. So that might be the game to look for maybe getting a game off of Orbit. It's still iffy for me. I don't see again. I don't see any reason why you would pick the number one seed from last year's Smite World Championship and the way that they've been performing in the split. I don't think there's any reason to pick against them. So we'll pick a 2-0 on that game, 2-0 on this game, no question about it. I think Orbit's probably going to come out of this group being the victor and probably not losing a game, maybe dropping a game to Dig. Uh, and you know what? I'll do a split just because for that last game, maybe Orbit's had enough by this time. It's Monday. There's only I think there's 4 games. I didn't realize that there's 4 games on Monday. Maybe Orbit's had enough. I think Dig might pick a game off of them. So we'll do a split on that one. And then Fantastique versus Sanguine. Again, maybe Fantastique will come to this LAN and they'll be completely overwhelmed and they'll get blown out. And then maybe let's say Sanguine somehow pulls off a win against somebody, and maybe they're feeling good. By this time, you might be looking towards a split. So it's really really tough to vote. And actually, now that I'm going through this, I'm realizing that maybe it's a good idea to pick from day to day. Make your picks on Saturday, see what happens, then make your Sunday picks. So that might actually be what I do after this, but going off this, I'll go with Fantastique. But just keep in mind, maybe if you're watching this and you do want to start making your picks, maybe do it from day to day, see how things are going, because it's on paper, Fantastique should win that game, but who knows? Maybe they're going to lose a couple games and not going to be doing well. They could completely tank. It's very possible. Um, I don't think Dig will tank. I really don't. So I think Dig is definitely going to 2-0 that one. And then the final game is going to be Orbit versus Fantastique. Again, I don't think that they're going to drop a game to Fantastique, even though Fantastique has been doing well. They might also be the sensation of LAN, because they're on the rise. Maybe they'll come out and they'll beat Orbit or they'll beat Dig and they'll have a good thing going. So they're one of those teams that could go either way in the LAN. That's probably the most interesting part about this group. If I'm going to be honest, again, this in my opinion is probably the least interesting one. But if I were to keep an eye on any team, it would probably be Fantastique. So those are my picks. Once again, if you're doing this, and I think I'm going to change these after I finish this video. I think I'm going to go from day to day. I'm going to make my Friday picks, see what happens, and then I'll make my Sunday picks. I think that just makes more sense because you might as well use the information you have to make your future picks. So that is my overview of week 1 of the SPL Lands. We'll see what happens. I know I'm going to be watching, so if you do watch and you have a favorite team, let me know who it is, which one you're rooting for, or anything like that. And again, I'll try to do some videos for the other three groups. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.